training workout for you. Unfortunately, the mic didn't want to record any of this, so I'll just do a little voiceover quickly because it was too cute, right? With babies, there's no second takes. So this is kind of testing the water. You've been doing a couple of the other baby training videos. This little initial workout, we're going to see how we hinge. So we're trying to almost straighten those knees. You can see the tension in my hamstrings, back to the thighs there. That's what you're going for. Trying to tension that whole hamstring. Arms are reaching down. It's okay if you don't have a baby. Zach's over there with the ball, and you're just pressing that ball. You're not putting weight into the ball. You're actually pressing your body away from the ball. That's a better way to say it. And then you're transitioning into this squat position. It's not super deep. You can see I'm trying to not let my butt tuck underneath. We don't want the pelvis going posteriorly, because then it puts too much of a strain on this lat muscle. And I forgot to introduce this workout. It's activating our lat muscle, which is not how I said unlocking. There we go. Get the L. Unlocking the lat was the name of the workout. Even here, I can see I could get a little more extension. Sometimes with baby, I'm not paying attention, but the more I press my body, my neck, my chest big, it's going to activate my lower back muscles, and the lat is included in those. We have other muscles like the spinal erectors, which are going to keep more of a curve in the low back. We don't want that low back flattening or flexing too much. That's all a bit of a test. I'm sure if we recorded this after, there'd be more curve, because a lot of us have dominant lats, which create too much curve in the low back, and some of us have lats that are just unactivated, and that's causing too much curve backwards, too much of an extended posture. So keep transitioning, activate. All the weight should be in the hips. Squat, hinge, still in the hips. That hinge is where setting up the good squat. All right, so now you might have noticed, okay, my knee hurt or my hip hurt, my low back hurt. Those are all little clues that we need to work on stuff, that there's something wrong, that we need to address it. So this will be more the therapy portion of the workout. So we're using this lovely table here. I'm just going to demonstrate with Mr. Isaiah. Feet are shoulder width apart. You're going to let the hips turn in. First, you're going to hinge, and then I'll show this from the side later. But then you're going to add a little squat. Bring yourself down to that chair or that bench, wherever you got. If it's too low, it's going to be harder, but that's good. You can kind of transition. This one's a decent height. So we'll have Zach here do it. Shoulder width apart. And we're starting with that ball, and we'll do it a different way here in a second, but reaching that ball away from the hips. We got those elbows are squeezing in towards each other. You can see Zach's elbows are a little wide. We'll kind of cue him into rolling those elbows in, squeezing the armpits, which is going to turn on the lats more. Lats are good protectors of the low back. See, I'm not trying to let my shoulder go too forward, maintaining that curve in my back. Already you can see that looks much better than before, because I'm not going as deep. I'm protecting my low back. Before, you can see my low back was flattening, almost rounding the other direction. Some people just that way, naturally, even in a standing posture. So we got Zach with that ball right in front of his pelvis. He's giving him a chance to press the ball towards the floor, drive his spine long. I'm using the analogy of a corkscrew here. How you think of like the arms of the corkscrew pull in and the cork lifts towards the ceiling. Imagine the cork is your spine, and your arms are the arms of the corkscrew. And you're keeping that squeeze, you're keeping that lengthened spine. Lemons in the armpits is another good analogy, or holding a piece of notebook paper in each armpit. Don't let that fall to the floor. That's all lat engagement. The breath is part of that. Breathing big, expansive, and wide in your rib cage. And there I'm showing a bad squat, and how a lot of us, we drive into the knees, putting too much weight forward into our toes, too much movement at the spine. There, a little bit better. We're moving from the hips. And we're always consistently trying to get better. You're only competing with yourself. We all have different posture types. So don't go as deep as I'm going. If it hurts, it might be a more shallow hinge. Now here we're going to get rotation out of the way. The problem with the lat is it could be more tight on one side than the other, which means the other side is weak. All right, so we got Zach's, we're going to get him to lengthen his stride a little bit. Doesn't have to be super long, but we're letting the ball pull the shoulders down, or the lats pull the shoulders down, and we want the neck lengthening away from that. Kind of like the shoulders and our head move together sometimes. We're trying to get them to move separate. Shoulders pull down, neck, back of the skull pulls really long. Do the same thing over here, and I'm driving my feet into the ground to get that. I'll have him lift the back of the heel. When he does that, he's going to place more weight. Just keep hanging on. Place more weight into that left hip. Raising, raising, raising. Raising, raising, raising. And then what we're going to do is going to add a little rotation. The right hip's going to roll towards the left. You have that table or chair there, so your left knee should not press into it. You're trying to avoid it. You're going to bring that ball or that baby down to the tabletop. I'll get out of the way here in a second. Lengthening. You should really feel this working one lat over the other. Pulling really tall, pulling really high, and then pull that baby up and keep your left hip back. That's the trick. Now, Zach pulled center. What I want you to do is keep rotated off to the left. You're still rotating that ball over the front leg. So we'll do it one more time. Pressing ball and baby towards the floor. Big and tall. Neck pulling away. Head and neck pulling away from the baby. The analogy I used in the video was, baby's got a dirty diaper. You know what it smells. You're pulling your head and neck away from it. You can see Zach's back knee is really bent. Want to keep that back knee straight as you can. It's always going to have a subtle bend in it. We just don't want too much bend. That's just stuff that comes with time. There's a lot of little steps that make these movements really break apart a lot of the binding and restriction we have. So just keep adding pieces as we go. Ball's pulling back. Zach's letting that back knee do a lot of that bend for him. And then that's causing him to have not as much curve in his low back. So we're going to cue him out of that back knee in a second. Try to get that back knee to straight. Because the more he straightens that, he's going to drive some extension into his low back, which is what we want. We want a little bit of extension. Like me, you can see those muscles in my back really getting stretched. That's what we're going for. We don't want them, just flattened and unengaged. That's better there with Zach. As soon as Zach lifted, you could see he got some curve. He's already doing better. His back leg's more straight. I must have told him, must have yelled at him. But when he presses that ball into the table, he gets more curve in his low back, especially when he raises his arms. So let's watch him here. You see that generate curve. See how his hip wants to pull forward? It's pulling a little bit forward. See how his pelvis shifted forward. But he did pretty good. It's hard. That hip really wants to help out. So you might not get very far lifting that ball off the table or the chair, whatever you're using. But you'll really feel that activation. Keep that hip hinged back where you had it. And this is just a little test for him up here. Don't drop the baby. We're just getting that right hip to hinge, left hand, left hip moving away from each other. So that was a bad one, moving from the spine versus just a little rotation from the hip. That's what we want. I'm going to let Zach do it, and I think the video cuts out here, unfortunately. Lots of video problems today. No mic. You can see I'm wearing a mic, just didn't pick it up. So that was almost too much rotation there. Picking on Zach here. He's new to this stuff. And of course, yes, you should always be barefoot. Even there, a little too much. You can see he was moving from the spine. Likes to get that low L5 area to work for him. That's what we're trying to stabilize. And part of that is breathing big and heavy into the lat, and that'll come in time. What I'm demonstrating there is letting the hip do more work. And it's the opposite hip that's hinging. It's your right hip. It's not the one that's going back. It's the one you're planting that's doing all the work. And that's where you're going to feel that's where you're going to feel the lat working and stretching. And remember, one side's probably imbalanced. I see a lot of that during the day. I'm working on people. So if you find one that's a little sticky, a little tight, a little weak, those are all good diagnostic tools. Do an extra side, an extra set on the side that feels restricted, the side that feels weaker. You feel a lot of binding. It's stiffer through the motion, or you feel off balance. That's something to work on. Because naturally throughout the day, our body's going to want to use the side that's more mobile, the side that's stronger, That's going to get a lot of play, more than you realize. It's getting a lot more activation than you realize. So really balance it out. All right, guys, enjoy.